Hi there, I'm Renee Schwartz, and welcome to Moonlake Productions' versions of the world's best fairy tales. This series is for listeners both young and old, and features stories from the Grimm Brothers, Hans Christian Andersen, Arabian Nights, and some of the best classic tales. From Jakob and Wilhelm Grimm, The Hedgehog and the Rabbit. This is a lying story, my children. But it's true just the same, for my grandfather who told it to me used to say, "It must be true, my child, or else how could one tell it after all?" But this is the way the story goes. It happened on the Buxtehude Heath, on a Sunday morning at harvest time, just as the buckwheat was coming into flower. The sun was climbing up into the heavens, a breeze blew gently over the stubble, larks trilled in the sky, bees buzzed in the buckwheat, and everybody was going to church in their Sunday best. In short, all creatures, great and small, were contented, and the hedgehog was too. This hedgehog, he was standing in his doorway with his arms crossed on his chest, pointing his nose to the wind, and singing a little tune. That is, as good or bad a tune as a hedgehog might be expected to sing on a lovely Sunday morning. While he was humming contentedly to himself in this charming fashion, a thought came into his head. "While my wife is busy washing and brushing the little ones," he thought, "I might as well go for a Sunday stroll and take a look at my turnip patch." The turnip patch was in a field next to his house and belonged to a farmer, but because the hedgehog and his family had fallen into the habit of eating there, they had come to think of it as their own. Well, no sooner said than done. The hedgehog closed the door after him and sauntered down the road. But just as he reached the blackthorn bush which grew beside the turnip patch, he met a rabbit who was out on the same business. That is to say, he had come to see how his garden, the cabbage patch, was getting along on this fine day. Bowing and smiling, the hedgehog wished the rabbit a pleasant good morning, but the rabbit, who was a grand gentleman in his own community and most haughty about it too, this rabbit did not return the hedgehog's neighborly greeting. Instead, he said with a mocking air, "And how do you happen to be running around in this field so early on a Sunday morning?" "It's such a fine Sunday," said the hedgehog. "I'm just out for a little stroll." "A stroll?" jeered the rabbit. "I should think you could put your legs to better use than that." His remark wounded the hedgehog beyond words, for he was very sensitive about his legs, which were short and somewhat crooked. So now he bristled up and cried in fury, "Oh, yes? You must think that your legs are better than mine." "That's exactly what I think," the rabbit replied calmly. "Yes, that's what you think," cried the hedgehog. "But I'll wager that if we ran a race, I'd win it." "That's a joke," cried the rabbit. "You with your stumpy little legs? However, if you are so bent on making a fool of yourself, I'll take you on. What shall the prize be for the winner?" "A golden coin and a bottle of brandy," said the hedgehog. "Agreed," said the rabbit. "Get in line and let's start." "Oh, no hurry about it," said the hedgehog carelessly. "I haven't even had breakfast yet. You get the prizes. I'll be right back here on the same spot in half an hour." With that they parted, for the rabbit was satisfied with the plan. On the way home, the hedgehog was busy with his thoughts. "That rabbit will depend upon his long, fleet legs," he thought. "My legs are, well, they're neither long nor fleet, but I'll beat him to it all the same. He may be a grand gentleman, yes, but he's an old muddle-noodle, and as for me, I'm not as stupid as I may look." Upon reaching home, the hedgehog said to his wife, "Come, hurry, get yourself ready. I need you out in the field." "What's going on then?" asked his wife. "Oh, nothing much. I told the rabbit I would run a race with him, and I'd like to have you around while it's going on." "My heavens, man!" cried his wife. "Are you out of your head? How could you ever hope to win a race against a rabbit?"
"No words, wife," cried the hedgehog sternly. "That's my business. Now don't poke your nose into men's affairs. March along now. Are you ready?"
What could the wife do? She had to obey whether she wanted to or not, and as they waddled along side by side, the hedgehog said to her,
"Now listen well to what I'm telling you. In this big field is where we'll run our race, the rabbit and I. See these long, deep furrows?" "Yes,"
said his wife.
"But silence!"
cried her husband, and then he continued.
"The rabbit, of course, will run in one furrow, and I in the next. And we'll start over there in the upper end of the field. Now, all you have to do is sit at the lower end of my furrow. Understand? Don't move from that place. Just sit there quietly. And when you hear the rabbit coming along, just pop up your head and say, 'Here I am already.'"
So, that's the way it was done. The hedgehog left his wife hiding in the lower end of his furrow, had a final meeting with the rabbit, and 1, 2, 3, off they went like a whirlwind downfield. That is, the rabbit did. The hedgehog only ran a few steps, then ducked down in his furrow and crouched there, out of sight and quiet as a mouse. The rabbit ran for his life, his ears flapping in the wind. He thought he was doing remarkably well, but as he neared the lower end of the field, someone cried,
"Here I am already!"
The rabbit couldn't believe his ears. And when he looked over into the next furrow, he could hardly believe his eyes either. What he saw, of course, was the hedgehog's wife, but since she looked exactly like her husband, the rabbit couldn't tell the difference between them. Well, it's the hedgehog all right, he thought. Just the same, I don't like the looks of the whole thing. Then, still panting for breath, he cried, "Another race! The other way around!" And off he went so fast it was a wonder his ears stayed on his head. The hedgehog's wife didn't move. She still stayed quietly in the lower end of the furrow. In a twinkling and a half, the rabbit had returned to the upper end of the furrow, yet there sat the hedgehog calling,
"Here I am already!"
The rabbit, now almost out of his head with fury, cried out wildly, "Another race! The other way around again!"
"As often as you wish, for all I care,"
said the hedgehog. Back and forth went the rabbit, forth and back, then back and forth again, but always when he reached the end of the furrow, it was the same old story. There sat the hedgehog calling,
"Yoo-hoo! Here I am already!"
73 times he tried, this racing rabbit, but at the 74th try, he had to give up. His legs folded up under him, his ears flopped sideways over his head, and then, with his breath coming in weary gasps, he sank down in his furrow and lay there with closed eyes. The hedgehog picked up the prizes and called his wife out of the furrow, saying,
"The race is over, and as you see, I won it."
Then they both went home together in great delight, and if they're not dead, for all I know, they're living there still. Yes, that is the way the story goes, my children, and it must be true, or how could it be that, ever since that time, no rabbit in the Buxtehude Heath has dared to pass a remark about a hedgehog's legs? Yes? No? Well, what do you think about it?